So many of us have been getting outside, enjoying nature. With us now, Jim Dexter. He's the Fisheries Chief for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. So great to have you with us.
Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning, Tyler. Glad to be here.
So here in the West Bloomfield area, we have so many lakes surrounding us. And from all the ice shanties I saw on the ice, especially in February, it looks like it's been a pretty busy season out on the waterways.
Yeah, it has been. And a lot of that was pent-up demand. When we were on the radio previously, we had talked about how climate change has had effects here in Michigan and throughout the country and the world. And we had a much shorter ice fishing season. There's many years we can get out before Christmas. This year it wasn't until really mid-January that things got safe. And now ice is really breaking up fast. I mean, it's going to be in the 60s this week. We're going to get rain. I've got tulips popping up in my yard already. Spring is around the corner. But yeah, people did get out. Fishing was good in certain areas. In southeast Michigan, there was a great perch fishery over on Lake St. Clair. People had still been getting out this past weekend on some of the inland canals, but that water or that ice is going to be disappearing. And we now have boat activity on Lake Erie. People are going out and trolling for walleyes already, and they're catching those fish. So that's great. It's great that people are getting out there and taking advantage of these first really nice days that we've had this spring.
So one thing I've noticed, because it seems like the thaw was pretty quick. We had those extremely cold temperatures in February and great ice, but then boom, it hit. And now I'm seeing a lot of situations on the lakes around us where people had built like those little ice rinks or the ice shanties, and they haven't gotten them off the ice yet. So what happens? Do you guys typically find a lot of that stuff like in the waterways after a season?
Yeah, that does happen. If people put a permanent, we call it like a permanent ice shanty out there, they have to have their name and address on it so that if they do go through the ice, they can be retrieved and the officers can figure out who it is. Maybe they're going to get a ticket because they left it out, but there is a law that says that they have to be removed by a certain date. And I believe, I should have been prepared for this question. I believe it's March 15th down here, and it's later up in the Upper Peninsula where it's a little colder and they've got more ice.
Yeah, well, it's hard to tell each year, too, because we haven't had the ice. Or at least I don't remember, like the last couple of years, it didn't seem like we had as much ice, really, for so much ice fishing, at least around here, like we did this year.
Yeah, it's been difficult the last several years. The weather's been pretty flaky, warm Novembers, kind of mediocre Decembers. Then you get blasted. I think it was last year we had the polar vortex for a couple of weeks. It was worse than what it was this year. Lots of zeros, and that makes good ice. That can make for tough fishing though. But a lot of people, when they go out and fish these days, they've got portable shanties. They can pull them out on a sled. They take them out in the morning, they remove them in the afternoon. So there's not as many of those shacks that are left out there, to go through the ice. And the anglers are really pretty good about it. There might be a hockey net or two that might go through.
Right. Jim Dexter with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Fisheries Chief for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Jim, we were at Dodge Park the other day walking the dog, and you do start to see some of the fish along the lake line there that have died. And as a reporter, I remember there were always those stories right around springtime where people were concerned about the big fish kills. Explain that to us.
Yeah, that's the most common type of fish kill that we have. We call it winter kill. And it happens once you have ice on the lake. Remember that in the lake there are plants. The plants are making oxygen for the water. So once you have the ice cover, there's no more oxygen exchange between the air and the lake. You've got plants making oxygen and using oxygen at nighttime. And then when you get snow on top of that, it cuts the light. And so now the plants can't make the oxygen. So the oxygen levels in the lake start falling. The fish are starting to get a little more stressed because it's springtime and it's spawning time for a lot of fish. And so you typically see this in shallow impoundments, shallow ponds, canals, Anywhere where it's shallow and there's some weed growth and there's not an area where fish can go to get good oxygenation, deeper water where there's still some oxygen left, happens every year. We get lots of calls. We always put out a news release that explains that this is a natural phenomena. Sometimes you only see one type of fish species that are more sensitive. Other times, if it's really bad, you see everything. And we've already been experiencing some fish kills. As you mentioned, Dodge Park, that's a new one that I haven't heard about, but I know that there's been some fish kills going on over on Lake St. Clair and some of the canals. And this happens every year, and it's part of nature.
So when someone sees that, is there any environmental risk to the public? Or it's just nature? It's just nature.
It's just nature. It's going to stink for a while. Some of these fish have been dead for weeks. They might be fuzzy because they're growing fungus, and then they blow it up and they come to the surface. But eventually, you know, the critters start coming out from this winter. They're going to eat some of those fish. Fish are going to go down. Sometimes these kills can be pretty big, but a lot of times they're fairly localized, and they don't usually take out the whole population. We do like to know when these types of things are happening, and we have an area on our DNR website called Eyes in the Field that you can report fish kills, and we will look into them just in the event that there's some type of other environmental issue that might be causing that fish kill. And fish kills can also occur in the summertime too. I might as well mention that at this point, you know, because typically late May, early June, temperatures are really rising, fish are spawning, plants are actively growing, and a lot of times on our inland lakes we have weed treatments that occur to remove some of the noxious weeds. And when that occurs, the weeds are dying, decomposing, using oxygen, and you end up with a springtime fish kill, not a winter fish kill. So that's pretty common also.
So I'm just thinking, because I know as a reporter, like I said, the newsrooms, the phone lines used to ring off the hook. So I'm sure it happens with you guys every single year as well. So if someone comes across something like this, is it better just to report it to someone? But they don't want to try to clean it up, right? This isn't something for the public to clean up.
Right, yeah. You know, I mean, if there's a few fish, you know, we don't need to know about that. We want to know about lots of fish, you know, big fish kills. We'll come out and take a look, either a conservation officer or one of our biologists. Most times people would not want to clean that up, and they ask us to clean it up.
Right,
That's
it's the smell. Like, you know, just thinking about it, like you can smell that smell, you know?
Yeah, it can get pretty bad, especially in the heat.
Oh, yeah.
Not pleasant, not pleasant. So what do you think? I think I saw a report where we all know that everyone's been outside so much more. Did you have an increase in fishing license this year?
Oh my gosh, it was huge. So we typically in Michigan sell 1 million to 1.1 million fishing licenses. That's what we sell. And then you've got, you know, anybody that's 17 or under does not have to buy a license. So there's all these kids that are out there fishing too. So let's just say we have 1.5 million people in the state that go out and fish. That's almost 15% of the population, which that's great. We had a 10% increase this past year in license sales, and that was uncharacteristic. The last several years we've been flat. You know, we go up and down 25, 50,000 licenses. But this year we went up 10%, which is very significant, well over 100,000 licenses. We had an increase in out-of-state anglers by about 2.5%. Wildlife Division also saw a 5% increase in hunting license sales, which is fantastic. So you're right. Everybody was getting outside because they were sequestered at home. What are they going to do? You're going to go for a walk in a park. You're going to go bike ride. You're going to go kayak. Let's go fishing. Maybe let's try hunting. And it's going to be real important and interesting to see if this translates into continued sustained activity this year. I hope that it does, because one of the good things that we found in our work is that the majority of our new license sales were in the younger folks groups, age 17 to 25. We saw a huge increase in what I would term brand new angler participation, people that have never gone out and done it before. And so I'm hoping that they're going to continue to do that this year. I know that the stores are all getting restocked. I mean, fishing season's coming up. It's right around the corner. April 1st is the beginning of the fishing year. We're already selling our new licenses for 2021. You can buy a license online, which makes it really easy. And I think that the stores will definitely be ready this year, because last year with all these new people out there, they sold out of everything. There were no rods, there were no reels, there were no kayaks, there were no canoes. Everything was gone.
Yeah, so, and the supply chain was broken last year as well,
Yeah,
because of the shipping. But can I ask a silly question?
There's no silly questions. Come on.
Wait for it.
Why do I need a license to fish? Can I just take a pole out, put it over the edge of the water, and hook a worm to it and catch a fish?
A lot of people think that. There are people that think that, fishing's all right. I can go out there and fish. But, we tell everybody, no, it's a privilege. It's a privilege that you have to pay for. You have to follow the rules, and you have people that work in DNR Fisheries Division that work to manage those fisheries, to sustain them so that you have good fishing activity. Without that license support, there'd be no fish management. Our work is almost entirely funded by license fees. And we also get excise taxes from the federal government so when you buy a fishing rod, there's an extra 5% tax that the manufacturer pays. Once that rod is bought, that comes to the state to help us manage those fisheries.
So tell us again why it's so important to try to manage the fisheries.
Well, if we didn't manage them, if there were no regulations, no conservation officers out there to enforce the laws, there's a lot of very good fishermen out there. And they would take what we would call more than their fair share. We have these regulations so that we can spread these fish out amongst the public, because these fish are owned by all the people of the state of Michigan. And my job as a trust manager is to ensure that those fish are available for everybody. And it's not just Ronnie that's out there getting all the perch in Lake St. Clair. Tyler gets a crack at it too.
Yes, come on, Ronnie.
I told you it was a silly question. So Jim Dexter with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Fisheries Chief for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. As someone that is like an outdoors lover, you probably have the coolest job. What's it take to join the DNR?
Well, it is a great job. I mean, I've been in this business now this is my 38th year in fisheries. Once I got out of college, went to Michigan State. And it's always good to have a degree in fisheries, wildlife. There's a lot of different degrees you can have to get into this field. But most people in our field have a bachelor's degree in fisheries. And we have a lot of great colleges, universities here in Michigan that provide that background. Michigan State University, U of M, Lake Superior State, Northern Michigan, Michigan Tech, Central Michigan, Grand Valley State. They all provide this background, and we hire an awful lot of Michigan people that graduate in these fields. But it's very, very popular. Everybody wants to go out and work on a boat. Everybody wants to go net some fish. Everyone wants to go count bears or deer, out in the woods. And so there's a lot of competition. There's an awful lot of competition. But if people get through college and stick with it, there's a lot of ways to get your feet in the door and to end up with an awesome career in natural resources. And we just have tremendous staff throughout the entire department, whether it's a forester, a wildlife biologist, fisheries biologist, a park ranger, a conservation officer. There are opportunities for people that have only a high school degree all the way to doctorates. I mean, we cover the field, and it's certainly an awesome place to work.
Yeah, in the state of Michigan, we have such a diverse landscape and a beautiful countryside, and we're lucky to live in this state. Do you anticipate it's going to be another busy year?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely do. I think that based on the activity levels that I'm hearing right now, you get this good weather, people are out there. I mean, I was stunned to hear that people are already practically breaking ice to get their boats out on Lake Erie to catch some walleyes. But that's what they've been doing, and we've got a lot of steelhead activity right now. And you're right about our diverse landscape, Ronnie. We have over 4 million acres of state land in this state, we have more state land than any other state east of the Mississippi. And within that land is a lot of lakes and thousands of miles of streams and rivers. And we have so many different opportunities, whether you want to fish catfish, you want to fish for trout, for steelhead, for salmon, you want to go hunt bunnies, you want to shoot deer, you want to shoot grouse. We've got the property that those activities can occur, and people do take advantage of it. I absolutely think it's going to be a busy year again this year, and we're ready for it. We're getting ready to stock fish. We start stocking fish here in about 2 weeks. That'll take about 5 or 6 weeks, but we'll be putting out about 20 million fish all around the state to help maintain the world-class fisheries that we have.
Where do you get your fish?
Where do we get them?
Yes.
We have 6 fish hatcheries, and they are located in Kalamazoo. We have 3 up around Traverse City, and we have 2 in the Upper Peninsula. And these are factories, and this is where they're primarily salmon and trout facilities, although we are just completing our first what we call cool water facility up in Manistee, where we will raise walleye and muskellunge to be stocked throughout the state. So that's very exciting to have that new facility come online here just in the next few weeks. But these facilities are operated by, we have 48 full-time staff that are dedicated to fish culture and fish health. We have maintenance mechanics that keep all the motors running and the pumps running and the water running. And we produce some very, very healthy fish, whether it's steelhead, Chinook salmon, coho salmon, brown trout, walleye, muskie. We run the gamut with about 13 species total. And those folks are very dedicated, and they help maintain our fisheries. I do want to put in a pitch on our most latest endeavor that we're doing, and that is we have a program that we have started to bring back the Arctic grayling, which is an extinct fish here in Michigan. It was a native fish, and it was very ubiquitous throughout the lower peninsula in the 1800s. But excessive logging and commercial harvesting on our rivers decimated them, and they disappeared. The last one was caught in 1936. We've tried several times in the past 100 years to bring that species back, but there's new science on board, and we are working down a long-term, very well thought out path to bring that species back to the state. And we just started our first brood stock to take eggs. And I would love to come back on in another day and talk just about Arctic grayling, because it's a very exciting fish. And I can't do it justice in 3 minutes.
Well, we wish you the best of luck on that project, and we always welcome having you back as well. We so appreciate your time this morning. Jim Dexter with us here on the MegaCast. He's the Fisheries Chief for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Thank you again for your time this morning.
Thank you, Ronnie. Good to be with you. Bye-bye.